Text appears saying Chrissy Bista presents Welcome to Brown Bags TV. Background is a woman typing into computer keyboard and changes to two people scribbling notes. Then the text now reads, It's better that we know. Then background changes to the photo of a woman in a table and with a fan and says, Your brown bag sessions are now virtual. Like, share, and subscribe.
Hello everyone, this is Brown Bags TV and welcome to our HR series. We're back after my probably a long social media dive. I'm back and I'm also back with a very informative episode, and this is about imposter syndrome. So probably this is familiar to you. If not, it's okay because you can listen and learn with us today with my very esteemed guest. So without further ado, let me call Julius Serrano. Hi, Jay.
Hello Chrissy, and
Hi.
hello to you who are watching this video. How are you, Chrissy?
I'm doing good. Like what I said earlier, I just had a social media diet. I just need to have some sort of a vacation from all these, political affairs in the Philippines. We just had our new president, and I was busy with a lot of different advocacies in relation to inclusive elections. We'll have a very wonderful episode today because it has something to do with imposter syndrome. This is kind of probably not so it may not be a very familiar concept to many, but probably they're experiencing it and they just didn't know it's imposter syndrome. But before that, let us know who is Julius. Who are you, my friend? I guess they need to know who you are. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So, for people, for some of you who haven't met me before, my name is Julius Charles Serrano. And what do I do? Well, you know how professionals start off energetic and inspired at work some years ago, and then after a few years, they end up unmotivated, uninspired, and feeling stuck. Well, as a results coach, I help them regain their zest and their oomph at work so they can become the best version, the most effective member in their team, and they can create a step-by-step plan to get to the next level of their career. So that's who I am. And I'm super excited about what you're going to learn in this episode of ours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for everybody's awareness, Julius is not just a coach. He's not just, into imposter syndrome thing, but he is also an IT professional. Can you tell us something about that? Just a little bit about your IT career.
Oh, yes. So I've been blessed to be able to have a career in the IT profession. And for 16 years, I've had the privilege of helping companies, helping government agencies ensure that their web content, their web apps, their websites are all accessible to people with special needs.
We will invite you again, Julius, for another episode to discuss more on digital accessibility, because I know it's a totally different story and it's a totally different issue to discuss. And
Looking forward to it.
Nice. Yeah. So going back to our imposter syndrome, I have been mentioning earlier that probably this is familiar or not familiar to everybody. But before we move along to our stories, to your tips, what is imposter syndrome, by the way?
Well, I'd like to start by asking you a question. Our friend who is watching this with us, because this is going to be an interactive episode.
Yes.
So I'd like to start by asking a question.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever doubted yourself and your skills?
Mm-hmm.
Have
Did you feel that you're a fraud?
Oh, well, absolutely. Have you ever felt that you do not deserve the opportunity that you currently have at work?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever felt that have you ever felt that you're constantly criticizing your work?
Mm-hmm.
Do you regularly feel that others are better than you? Then
Interesting.
there's a huge chance that you're feeling imposter syndrome. So let's define what imposter syndrome is. It is a term used by psychologists since the 1970s. So this is a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their skills, talents, and accomplishments. And this is a psychological pattern wherein the person has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. So imposter syndrome can affect you regardless of your skill level, your experience, or the industry that you're in. So that's imposter syndrome. And I'm curious, Chrissy, comment below if you're watching this video right now. Comment below if you've experienced any of the if you answered yes to any
all the
of the questions. Or any or all of the questions. If the definition itself resonates with you, if you feel that you have this psychological pattern wherein you constantly doubt yourself and you have this persistent fear that someday people might actually find out that you're a phony.
So make sure, guys, to comment in the section in the comment section if this is something that you experienced or probably experiencing right now at work, regardless of your position, whether you're from the IT field or from other disciplines. Just feel free to comment if you are experiencing this or you have experienced this in the past. And to add, Julius, about what you said earlier, yes, that was from the, it's a concept developed by psychologists in the 1970s. In fact, I guess this is an added trivia to that, because during that time, there's still an issue with women and men and person of color and, with white people. It's, usually women of color, especially those who has dark skin, are often experiencing imposter syndrome at work, because sometimes they're thinking, well, not sometimes, most of the time they're thinking, this is the place for white people. It's like, I don't belong here. Or sometimes when they were able to catch an opportunity at work and they're working with white people, usually they feel inferior, they feel less. I guess you're very, very right when you quickly ran down the questions about how would you know if you are experiencing or if you are feeling imposter syndrome, because because this is a phenomenon, or this is a problem where it's very systemic, because it's a product of classism, racism, and xenophobia. So it's like we have to look at the environment or the workplace just to make sure that we're doing our best as HR practitioners and as organizations. So I'm coming from the organizational side or perspective from the HR field, where we have to eliminate and we have to lessen imposter syndrome in our offices or in our organizations, because this is part of what you call diversity and inclusion programs, because right now D&I programs around the world is flourishing and starting to develop. So we need to make sure that when we come up with programs for employees, this is always part of our consideration. Everything should be competency based on their skills and abilities, not because they are person of color, not because they are a person with disability, not because they are from the LGBT community, not because they're Asians, not because they're person of color. Their color is different from yours. So anyway, much has been said, but before we dive deeper into this concept or to this imposter syndrome thing, did you have any experience?
Before we answer that, Christy, I'd like to help the viewer further by giving very clear signs. Here are some signs that you're experiencing imposter syndrome, just
That's
to
very
further
interesting to know.
crystallize the learning. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you are experiencing imposter syndrome if you regularly doubt yourself and your skills. Have you ever felt
Oh.
that? You are experiencing imposter syndrome if you have achieved something notable and you feel that you just got lucky. Have you ever felt that? You're experiencing imposter syndrome if you think of your accomplishment and say, that's nothing. That's nothing. Anyone could have done it. You're experiencing imposter syndrome if you're consistently second guessing yourself and you don't believe that you deserve the success that you've achieved. Also, you may be experiencing imposter syndrome if you feel like a phony whenever you'd like to ask for help from other people. So you simply don't ask for help. And last sign that you're experiencing imposter syndrome, if you regularly feel that others are better than you. So again, comment below. I mean, you are doing such a huge service by commenting below because you're helping other people feel that they're not alone. There might be people watching this episode who are already experiencing this imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And by just commenting on this video, you're helping people feel hope. Other people are experiencing it. So,
you are not alone.
Yes, absolutely. So those are the signs. So after talking about the definition of imposter syndrome, we also given you some of the concrete signs that you can check in your life to tell you if you are experiencing imposter syndrome. So again, Chrissy, you were saying?
Yeah, so thank you for letting us know the clear signs that would tell us if we are experiencing imposter syndrome. And like what I mentioned earlier, or rather we have mentioned earlier, our viewers are not alone. We also have our own share on this issue. So can we just quickly go back to our memory lane and check where in this lifetime did we actually experience imposter syndrome? Do you have any experience, or can you recall any experience that you somehow felt this, or probably you really did experience this?
Absolutely. So let me take you back 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I had the opportunity, the privilege of being hired as an IT consultant specializing on web accessibility, hired by one of the largest IT companies here in New Zealand, where I'm based right now. So when I was hired 10 years ago by this company, obviously I felt such exquisite joy and euphoria. For me, who grew up in the Philippines, I mean, that's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, being hired by a company here in New Zealand.
I think everybody would feel the same. Very thankful and appreciative of it.
Yeah, what I didn't realize is that the joy and euphoria that I felt slowly turned to feelings of unworthiness. I slowly felt like, everything that I was doing wasn't good enough. And every day I was doubting myself. So you could just imagine, if you were with me, the first few days starting in that IT company, I was so happy. You could see that smile. I was making friends. I was very happy, just working, enjoying, appreciating that experience. But slowly, the energy level started to go down significantly. And I started to have that inner voice, that menacing inner voice saying, "Hey, Julius, you're a phony, right? and that there are so many people out there who are more deserving of that role. Especially, in the accessibility community, there are so many brilliant people. And whenever, I'm doing research, reading the articles, exploring, interacting with the newsletter, with people on the mailing lists, so many brilliant people in accessibility. And, the feeling of unworthiness is further magnified whenever I see people, doing so much more for accessibility. So that is when, I realized, because I did the research, why do I feel this way? I don't want to continue feeling this feeling of unworthiness, because it absolutely sucks. It affects my productivity. It prevents me from fully enjoying the privilege that I've been given. One example of the effect of imposter syndrome in my IT career in that company. So the training manager, knowing that I had a very specialized skill of testing and training for accessibility. So the training manager, very, very, very nice and kind individual, she asked me, Julius, would you like to do some training for the company? A series of trainings about accessibility? I'm sure people would really love that. I'm really sure that people would really love that and enjoy and find value from it. So for more than a year, I kept on saying no. I kept on coming up with reasons. I'm not ready yet. I better do some more research. We need to wait for the updated international guidelines before we start training. In reality, Chrissy, and you, our friend who is watching this.
Yeah, our friends watching.
Yeah. This is a point of vulnerability for me.
Mm-hmm.
I kept on saying no.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think that I could teach something new. Because I didn't think that I could teach something new to web developers, to experts in web programming. So even if I knew all of those accessibility principles, even if I had this lived experience as a blind person, I still felt that I didn't deserve to share my knowledge, to train people in a field that I have been mastering for the past 6 years, because I've been an accessibility specialist for 6 years before being hired in this company. So that is how massive the effect of imposter syndrome in my life. So it actually stopped me from sharing things that, quite frankly, I was the only one who had lived experience with in that company. And also, there's a deep and emotional effect on that, because as the imposter syndrome grew in my life, it prevented me from having deep and meaningful friendships with the colleagues, because I simply felt that I didn't deserve to be there. So that's my experience of imposter syndrome.
I know how it feels, because sometimes we are always thinking twice if we are really deserving of that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
exactly.
So for you, or for all of you watching us today, please comment, or please share in this comment section, your past experience perhaps about imposter
definitely.
syndrome. I moved into another country because I took my master's in Australia, which happens to be a neighbor of your country.
Oh yeah.
Inland down under. So I was very, very happy, and I'm very thankful, very appreciative of the fact that I bagged a scholarship for my master's. So I took my master's there, I studied there, but the thing is, I had this probably imposter syndrome when I was studying, or I was in the middle of my studies, because everyone around me is mostly white, and I'm Asian. So, and I'm a woman, and at the same time, I'm a person with disability. Everybody knows, or most of my viewers who kept watching my episodes know that I am also like you. I'm also blind, and you know, I I was really I was really confused if I'm really deserving of this opportunity to study there and be a scholar of another country's government, etc. So, um, I also had that pressure to maintain like high grades, like high marks. Otherwise, I might lose my scholarship. So, can you just imagine the compounded stress that I was feeling, to make sure that you're academically okay, you're emotionally stable, and at the same time, you're able to fight and compete equally with everyone else in the class. As a scholar, you need to maintain a lot of things just so, you know, you finish the contract and you finish with flying colors. So there was a time wherein I really felt that I can't deliver a certain requirement in this particular class. I was doubting if I really understood it. I'm not sure if my ideas that I'm going to write on that particular assessment or requirement is something good and something sensible. I was really confused if I really understood correctly. But in the middle of all these imposter syndrome thing when you're experiencing it, I guess you would agree that somehow when there's someone with you in that journey, that helps a lot.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. When you found someone who probably they actually don't know you're experiencing imposter syndrome, but it's very helpful when they're just there to listen and run minds with you. So that happens when I was really feeling confused with what I'm writing, and because that's my final requirement for that particular subject, for that class. So I was really really hoping to really make it the best. I'd like to give credits to my professor, Professor James Hunt. Hello, if you're watching. Hi. And of course, Professor Robert E. Compton, because they are the best ones I have ever had. As probably they don't know, but I really, really listen to everything they say and what they advised me to do. So probably that was the time I was able to control and kill my imposter syndrome. And actually that time I didn't know it was imposter syndrome. Only now that you have laid down the different signs or clear signs of imposter syndrome, that I just realized that I really did experience that during that time. And so with their intervention, I made it. I did it, and they made me realize that what I was thinking wasn't really that bad, and wasn't I understood everything correctly during the class. So I'm very happy with the results, because I got I'm one of those who got the highest marks in class.
Nice.
So I guess it's very helpful for someone experiencing imposter syndrome that there's someone they can run to and run minds with, or share their feelings, and someone would just really listen to them, because it really helps. And there's a lot of different issues that we experience. I'm pretty sure of that. Julius have lots of experience to share, but we would love to hear yours. So keep the comments coming in the comment section. So it's really hard when just to add, it's really hard when you belong to marginalized groups that has been historically oppressed and historically discriminated. These are us, persons with disabilities, person of color. It's always an issue of race, color, disability, age. Also, being an Asian compared to the Caucasians, it's also an issue for most Asians, when like us, who are, let's say, working in a highly diverse workforce.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that it's happening across all organizations, but there are still a lot of organizations where, you know, these type of discrimination are still happening. So what do we do now? If, let's say, after knowing the
Mhm.
clear signs that, okay, probably I'm experiencing it, or what I experienced in the past was imposter syndrome. So what do we do now?
The next thing that's very important is to, understand the long-term consequences. Because you watching this, you may feel, yeah, I do experience imposter syndrome. I'll just wait it out, and it's probably gonna die off someday. But I'm here to challenge you and tell you that it is a problem that you need to address right now, because imposter syndrome, when left unchecked, it is going to stop you from realizing your potential. So when you feel like an imposter, you are going to unconsciously self-sabotage. And it's going to have a massive impact on your performance and your productivity. You're going to unconsciously miss your deadlines. You're going to unconsciously submit work that is subpar. And I am very sure that you don't want that to happen. I'm very sure that you want to make the most of the opportunity that you've been given.
Yes.
So just imagine, 5 years from now, speaking of the long-term consequences, because we really want you to learn that this is a major problem that needs to be addressed. So just imagine 5 years from now, if you're experiencing imposter syndrome, and just imagine being in the same position as you were 5 years from now, because your imposter syndrome prevented you from grabbing any new opportunity because you simply feel that you don't deserve it. So as you can see, imposter syndrome, when left unchecked, is going to have a massive impact in your career, whether you're in the IT industry or in the HR industry or any other industry. Just imagine yourself staying in the same position while you see your other colleagues moving on to senior roles and better positions even. What we've found is imposter syndrome also has a long-term effect on your finances. Because listen closely, when you have imposter
your wallet
syndrome,
is also impacted.
Oh yes, definitely. Here we go.
Okay.
Because imposter syndrome stops you from charging what you're actually worth. So if you're in that current position and you feel like an imposter, you're definitely not going to ask for a raise because you feel that you don't deserve it. Think about that. So just imagine 5 years from now, seeing your bank account on the same state that it was in 5 years ago, or worse yet, with a significantly less amount. And you do realize, speaking of problems in your life being created by imposter syndrome, these consequences will eventually have an effect in your health and well-being. Because you will be in a state of, as we've mentioned before, in a state of persistent fear. Just imagine experiencing persistent fear of being discovered that you're a fraud. So you're going to be in a constant state of unhappiness and unfulfillment. So we just want to help you realize that it is a problem. It is a problem that you need to address right now. That's why, we prepared for you a couple of tools that you can use, which, what do you think, Chrissy?
Yeah, that's very important for them to know how an individual can actually help themselves whenever they feel like, it's like I guess I'm experiencing imposter syndrome now. And I'd like to add to what you mentioned earlier, since you're focused more on the individuals and advising or suggesting to our friends who are listening right now to how to help themselves. I'd like to also share something about the organizations where people work. This is very important for us who work in the organization, especially us who work in the HR field, to consider imposter syndrome at work. We need to make sure that when we create programs for the employees, or when we develop further our D&I programs or diversity and inclusion programs, we need to make sure that we are always competency based when we create, let's say, programs for career advancement, for training, for the career trajectories of our employees, because we have a role in imposter syndrome. If the person feels that the environment they work for is an environment where it largely contributes to this phenomenon, to this imposter syndrome thing, then probably we're doing something wrong, or probably we're not acting upon what's happening in the workplace. So us from the organization side, we need to do something for our employees to feel that they are competent about the jobs that where we hired them for. They need to feel their value as employees, and we need to make them feel that they're welcome. We need to make them feel that they are really competent for the responsibilities or tasks that we ask them to do. I know that it's a big responsibility on our shoulders, but as the nurturing department of any organization, always remember we are here to help the employees and the employer put things into the right places, or make sure that there's harmony among the team members, among everyone else in the organization. Okay, going back to your tips.
I just want to appreciate you and agree 100% with what you said, because the individual and the organization need to meet halfway. An individual has to perform change work to improve themselves. You need to improve yourself if you're experiencing imposter syndrome. And at the same time, there's a responsibility from your organization to help you out.
Yeah.
To provide programs, to help with regular check-ins and such.
True. It's
so
chicken and egg.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's chicken and egg. So if you want to lessen the feeling of imposter syndrome in your workplace, then the organization needs to do something so that we can lessen that feeling amongst the employees. And sometimes when the employees feel imposter syndrome, they need to help themselves as well. So sometimes both I don't know, either way can either context can actually contribute to that feeling. Okay, go on.
Cool. So how do we help the individual? You who are watching right now, what can you do to eliminate imposter syndrome? Well, we're so excited to share with you these 3 keys to eliminate imposter syndrome. But before that, the first thing that you need to do is to own your imposter syndrome, is to realize and become aware that you're experiencing imposter syndrome. That's the first thing that you need to do. Before understanding any technique, any tool, any strategy to eliminate imposter syndrome, you need to be able to own your imposter syndrome. Once you've done that, the next thing to do is to realize that what it's trying to make you believe is absolutely 100% not true. You do deserve the opportunity that you've had. You do deserve the success that you've achieved. So this imposter syndrome, it's really a problem because first and foremost, it's trying to make you believe something that is absolutely not true. Okay? So number one, first and foremost, own your imposter syndrome. Admit that you're experiencing it. And number two, simply look at it and realize that everything, if you're experiencing that inner voice, the same inner voice that I told you about earlier, realize that it's making you believe something that is absolutely not true. If you are watching this, I want you to realize that you do deserve all of the success, the accomplishments, and the achievements that you've had in your life. I want you to realize that. After realizing those two things, owning your imposter syndrome and realizing that whatever it's trying to make you believe is not true, then we can work on these 3 keys. So, you might want to write this down. Here are the 3 keys to eliminate imposter syndrome. Number 1, you need to elevate your mindset. You need to elevate your mindset. Okay? What does this mean? So, when you're elevating your mindset in order to eliminate imposter syndrome, you first need to do some reflection and identify the root cause of your imposter syndrome. It's different for each individual. It might be a single event in your childhood wherein your playmates might have told you that you don't deserve receiving something. You don't deserve receiving that award or even that toy. That experience, could have affected how you think of things, of successes, of accomplishments that you had. There are powerful coaching techniques to help you identify the root cause of imposter syndrome and limiting beliefs caused by imposter syndrome. But as I've mentioned, a good starting point is to do some reflection. Find a quiet time away from technology, if possible, and try to go back to your childhood or your teens and identify, because you're the only one who can identify it for yourself. Although, coaches like myself can help you with that, it is you who had that experience. So it is you, first and foremost, who would be able to discover that specific event that started that imposter syndrome. Number 2, under elevate your mindset, learn self-development principles. This means reading books on personal development, watching videos on personal development, motivational and inspirational videos with a positive message. You might even consider attending online programs focusing on having a positive mindset, focusing on influence, focusing on communication. Basically, everything, every topic that helps you maintain an empowered and a positive mindset. Remember to take one principle and apply it in your life. Remember to, not just learn and learn and learn, but practice. Practice. Because as you may know, knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing. The third thing that you can do under elevating your mindset, associate yourself with positive people. You might want to write these things down. Associate yourself with positive people. Find and reconnect with existing friends who motivate and inspire you. You might want to consider joining peer groups and online forums focused on, that have members who are inspired, who have a goal, who are motivated, and who uplift other people. Of course, you can also consider getting a coach to help you maintain a mindset of empowerment. Now, when it comes to associating yourself with positive people, one of the common questions, one of the common concerns that I get asked is, Julius, this sounds good. What about the toxic people in my life? You might also experience that having toxic and negative people.
Yeah.
All of
Toxic
us
environment.
have these people. They can definitely magnify your imposter syndrome with their negative ways and their words of discouragement. Well, I'm here to tell you that you have the choice. You have the choice to lovingly and gradually spend less time with them. Remember, if you regularly spend time with 5 negative and toxic people who have no dreams or aspirations, who scroll on social media all day, and who constantly feel that they're the world's biggest victims, you, my friend, are going to be the 6th one eventually. And I'm sure that you don't want that to happen. So when it comes to dealing with negative and toxic people, people also ask me, I have family members who are like this, Julius. What do I do? When it comes to family, you need to face the fact that there's not much that you can do, because especially when you spend time with them every day. So what we are suggesting is to be able to find online groups, find friends in your community, and constantly feed your mind with positivity. You now have unlimited access to motivational talks and speeches and personal development books online. So I believe that that's an excellent way to balance the energy and the atmosphere that you have in your home. If you have people, if you're living with people who are, incredibly negative. If you constantly consume personal development information, if you constantly associate yourself and spend time with positive and inspiring and motivating people, that imposter syndrome will eventually decrease and decrease and decrease. Chrissy, you have any thoughts on elevating your mindset?
Actually, my favorite part there is to keep off from toxic people. Yeah, because I guess at this point in time you don't need any amount of negativity that
Nice.
ruin your day and productivity. But I have a question. What's the best way of dealing with them? For example, you are in a workplace where you can't do anything about it. Like, I mean, you cannot
Right, yeah.
you cannot terminate them because you're not the person in authority to do that. And you simply cannot remove them in the workplace because it's not just because you do not have the authority to terminate their employment, but they're also doing well with their job, so there's no reason for them to be removed in the system or in the workplace. So you simply need to coexist with them. And in that scenario, is there a tip for all of us to manage that kind of situation where you really have no choice but to coexist with this toxic person, toxic boss, toxic coworker?
Brilliant question. I'm sure that, this is something that you who are watching right now, our friend, has experienced at some point or at some
For
extent.
sure. For
Yep.
sure they did.
What I would suggest is realize that, as you've mentioned, Chrissy, having that toxic and negative workmate is out of your control. They're there. There's nothing that you can do about it. What you have complete control of are your responses to the event. You are responsible for the emotion that you're feeling. If that person does something to make you feel upset, realize that you are responsible for how you react. You have no control over what people do or say. You have complete control over how you would respond to it. Do you respond with a similar attitude of anger and disdain and contempt? Or do you respond with compassion? The choice is completely up to you. Another thing that you could do is to be the example. If you want that person to be more polite, start with yourself. Be polite yourself. If you want that person to be less confrontational, to be less toxic, to be less rude, then why not start with yourself and show that person, what a good employee, what a good workmate needs to be.
It's because like role modeling.
Oh yes, definitely. I believe in the power of mirror neurons. When you exude the positivity that you would like other people to have, other people will definitely see it in you, and in time, when you're consistent at it, they're gonna see it in themselves. So you can actually influence them by being the positive person in that work environment. Does that answer your question?
Definitely. Yeah. I guess it's a wonderful step to do, the role modeling thing when you're in the workplace. I guess it's the other way around, right? You would influence the toxic one to become more positive, I guess, and to be more polite to their coworkers.
Second is simply serving others. Recognize that when you're experiencing imposter syndrome, you are most likely spending too much time thinking of yourself. Because you're thinking, I don't deserve this. I am a fraud. And I'm afraid that I'll be exposed as a phony. So it's all about I. The imposter syndrome is a self-centered mindset. So when it comes to serving, it's pretty easy. There are so many ways of serving people. Asking someone how they are. Genuinely asking someone how they are. Being completely present during conversations, completely ignoring your phone or your tablet when somebody's reaching out to you. Offering a helping hand to someone who is struggling. If you're in the workplace and you see somebody who's having a hard time, who's feeling the pressure of delivering, meeting a deadline, just offering a helping hand if you have the time. And just asking how they are, and just simply asking, is there anything that I can do? You want me to help you get some coffee while you're having a break? Offering your time, your resources, and even your expertise. Simply saying please and thank you, and being polite and kind to people who are serving you.
It's a big thing.
These are, When it comes to serving people, we're not saying that you need to drop everything and serve others. Remember that serving people comes with the knowledge that you need to set boundaries as well. So that is the second key. It's all about serving people.
It's not like the service is not like a royal service to the king that you have to drop everything for them. I don't think it's to that extent, right?
Yes.
Yeah, only when you can and only if you know how, I guess. That's the best way of putting it. And to add to what Julius mentioned earlier about serving and checking on people, checking how are they, etc. For all of us, especially if you are a manager, if you're working as a supervisor, always have a check-in moment or check-in sessions with your staff or associates. Always have a weekly or once or twice a week check-in session with them. By not asking how's the project so far, you have to start asking how are you, how's everything going? How's your children? How's your if this person doesn't have a family yet, you can probably ask how's the sports, like if this person is involved with sports or cycling. Just ask personal stuff by not really stepping into the most personal things about them, but checking on them, like how are they as a person, how's their mood, how's how's their emotion at that time. I guess that's very, very important for you to know as a manager and supervisor, because nowadays avocado leadership is very important. Avocado leadership is, you know, when to be hard and when to be soft, and a combination of
Nice.
those qualities would really help you to become a better manager and a better supervisor, because it's a type of leadership where you know how to draw boundaries, but at the same time you're very human in a sense where you also care about things that are important for them, especially on a personal
Yes.
level. So that's why it's very important for all of you, especially if you're a manager, supervisor, or if you're a CEO watching this episode. It's important to be human, and it's important for us to care about what's important for our associates and staff. It's always been important to know how they are before asking them about deadlines, about the projects you're working on. So the weekly check-ins would be very helpful. Well, I guess that's for the organization side, like just to make sure that we are making the work environment very, very warm, very hospitable to people, and by lessening imposter syndrome, lessening this syndrome to go around different workstations and different people in the team. So okay, so I guess we're moving to the next
Nice.
tip.
It's 100%.
Mhm.
So the third tip. So number 1, elevate your mindset. Number 2, serve others. Number 3, celebrate yourself. Celebrate yourself.
Wow,
Oftentimes
that's
when you're
interesting.
when you are experiencing imposter syndrome, you constantly beat up yourself and tell yourself you don't deserve it. You're not worthy. The best way to eliminate that after elevating your mindset and serving others is to simply take the time to acknowledge yourself and the things that you've done, and taking the time that you believe every bit of success that you've achieved. Simply writing down a list of things that you love about yourself. Simply writing down a list of successes and accomplishments, from the smallest ones to the most massive ones, to the biggest and most impressive ones, to the everyday ordinary ones. Write everything down. So for my clients, this is one of the biggest breakthroughs when I'm coaching my clients. This realization of how awesome they are is one of the biggest breakthroughs that they have during our coaching sessions and program. When you discover what's awesome about yourself, this imposter syndrome, you're basically going to eliminate it. Here's a starting point. Sit down, open up a Word document, or if you want, you can actually write it down. It's actually more powerful when you write it using your hands. Write down a list of things that you believe are awesome about you. This is called your inventory of awesomeness. Isn't that awesome? Your inventory of awesomeness. How often have you stopped and thought of 5 or 10 or 15 things that are awesome about yourself? And one of the questions that we get asked is, Julius, this inventory of awesomeness sounds good. I honestly can't think of anything awesome about myself. If you, my friend who are watching this, actually have that thought in your mind right now, I would like to challenge you. I would like to ask you to raise your hand, and lovingly slap yourself. That's right. I want you to do that and wake up. Because the fact that you are born, listen closely, the fact that you are born in this world means that you are absolutely amazing as you are. Let me repeat that. If you can't think of anything awesome about you, what I would like you to realize is the fact that you're born in this world means that you are amazing as you are. And realize that out of 400 million variables, you are the one who appeared.
What is that variable?
Out of 400 million swimming variables in the cycle of biology,
Okay.
you are the one who appeared. I don't think we need to explain that any further. Do we?
Well, probably we should a little bit, but guys, we're not science teachers, but I guess everybody knows how biology works. Out of the million swimming sperms, there's only one that meets the queen, and that is us. We were born.
Yes.
To cut it short. So, I guess, I don't know, it could be a funny way of explaining it, but that's how awesome we are, right?
Yes. That's how awesome we all are. The chance of you being born in this world is 400 million to 1. Let that sink in. And speaking of, awesome things that you have achieved, if you are watching or listening to this, it means that you are wonderfully blessed. Because realize that the richest people, listen closely, the richest people who lived 40 or even 30 years ago, they do not have the wealth of information or the abundance of amenities that you have access to for free right now. Isn't that awesome? So, comment below. What's something awesome about you?
Yeah,
We'd love
anything.
to hear it.
We'd love to hear it. Just share in the comment section anything that's awesome about you. Like, for example, did you close a deadline today? Did you close a sale today? Or let's say, did you have coffee with a very close friend that you haven't seen for a long time?
Nice.
Anything. I guess that would make you feel awesome because you share your small or big victories with someone. You celebrate the small things, even the smallest things, I guess.
Yep.
Is that right?
That you made your bed, the fact that you made your bed before moving on to the daily activities. If you can't think of any, realize that you were born, which means that you're awesome. And if you made your bed this morning, that is a success. That is a success.
Yeah.
The fact that you woke up this morning, that means that you're successful. 100,000 people never get the chance to wake up.
Exactly. So, I guess the best thing about Celebrate is about celebrating even the simplest and smallest things. I mean, it's always subjected to people's measurement of things. Like how do they measure success? We always have this tendency to forget to celebrate the smallest and simplest things. We only look at the bigger ones or the biggest victories we have, and that's the only time we celebrate. But no, I guess it shouldn't be that way, right?
Nice. Absolutely. Cool. So you might be wondering, whatever happened to that situation, Julius? There are things that we actually practice in our lives, in our career. We elevate our mindset, we serve other people, and we celebrate. That's why we'd like to share these things with you, these 3 keys to eliminate imposter syndrome, because these are the things that actually applied in our lives. That's why we're so confident that these will definitely work if you practice them consistently. And, when I learned, just to be able to share a bit of an epilogue to what happened to me earlier. So I told you about the situation with the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So when I learned how to eliminate imposter syndrome, it definitely started to do more for my career. I had the privilege to do training for some of the largest government agencies and companies here in New Zealand.
Wow.
I've had the privilege to instill a lasting change in the hearts and minds of people who are directly responsible for making web content and web apps accessible.
Yeah.
And eliminating imposter syndrome has definitely allowed me to step into the next chapter of my career, helping IT professionals create their amazing vision and achieve it with ease and fun. So that's what happened. That's the light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to like eliminating imposter syndrome. All because of these 3 tips that we are sharing with you right now.
Is there a way for someone to look for evidence? Well, evidence might be a very strong word, but how can an individual confirm or check within themselves if they have addressed their imposter syndrome? How can they look for these set of evidence or facts? If they follow your tip, for example, they follow the 3 C's, how would they know if they're okay?
Awesome.
And yeah.
Awesome question. Definitely. You need to measure it. Regularly check in with yourself. Check in how you're feeling and notice how you are communicating with yourself. Oftentimes when you're experiencing imposter syndrome, it's all negative. You feel down, usually, and you have that voice telling you, you don't deserve it. Don't go taking that opportunity. So number 1, just having some quiet time with yourself and regularly check in. How am I feeling today? Do I feel more inspired today? Do I feel more motivated as I was 3 months ago? Just, how am I feeling right now compared to how I was feeling 2 months or 3 months ago? You'll definitely see some changes, some tangible changes when you've already practiced these 3 keys. Another thing that you can do is to be mindful of how you talk to yourself. I believe in the principle of the life-changing principle of being your own best friend. Simply being your own best friend. So if you notice that, you're still talking rather harshly to yourself, then that's a good indication that A, you're already aware, B, you're making progress, and C, you just need to be more consistent with elevating your mindset, serving people, and celebrating yourself. So that's how you find out.
Nice. That's a very good way to know if you're okay and if you're progressing with your self-help. Okay, is there anything else? Like any other additional tip for our audience?
Well, for me, that's about it.
Okay.
Elevate your mindset, serving other people, and celebrate yourself.
Celebrate. Yes, celebrate. And in our respective organizations, in order for us to help our employees maintain good or high employee morale, we need to also come up with programs that would help them celebrate their little successes or probably victory. We have this particular program called Breakfast with the Stars. Is that interesting?
Tell me more.
So the HR would have to collect the performance or the productivity levels of every employee. So for every that's for every department or for every unit. So each month, like I guess every Friday, first Friday or last Friday of the month, Breakfast with the Stars is done in the office where the country managers, even the highest ranking officials, will be the one to serve you breakfast. Why?
Nice.
Yeah, that's why it's Breakfast with the Stars, because we always look up to these people in the high ranking positions as the stars in the company.
Nice.
So, as a form of like respect and being thankful for your contributions and for recognizing your value as an employee, regardless of your position, they'll be the one to serve you breakfast, a bountiful breakfast actually,
Nice.
sponsored by the company. And we have like an email blast wherein it's being announced company-wide who are the stars or who are the performers of the month,
Nice.
who will join the Breakfast with the Stars program. And it's very simple as what you have heard from my description, but it's very, very heartwarming. It's very nice to the feeling that regardless of your position, even the highest ranking officer in the company was able to recognize your value and contribution.
Nice.
And I guess that would be helpful from the side of the organization to lessen imposter syndrome in the workplace. So,
Nice.
with that, we will we're not ending yet the episode because we will tell you if you have reached this part of the episode, we will tell you our surprise.
Nice. So, before we go any further, let me just help you remember how much value you've gotten in this episode. You've discovered what imposter syndrome really is. You've also learned the clear signs that tell you that you might be experiencing imposter syndrome. You've also learned 3 powerful tools to eliminate imposter syndrome. So, what I would like to do now is, share a bit about what I'm doing. So if you enjoyed our conversation today with me, with Chrissy, and with you who are watching right now, if you enjoyed and found value in the entire conversation that we've had, then you're definitely going to want to jump on a success system call with me. So what is the success system
What
call?
is success system call? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. It is a very powerful 60-minute call wherein we're going to have a one-on-one conversation. We're going to discover your vision, your true vision as a professional or as a business owner, or as an employee or as an entrepreneur. We're going to identify what it is that you really want to achieve. We're going to identify the roadblocks that you have. And then we're going to identify a step-by-step plan that will help you effortlessly move to that vision while eliminating, avoiding, or working around the roadblocks, the specific roadblocks that you have. It's definitely different for each person, but you're going to definitely have, a massive breakthrough in this success system call. It's valued at $97.
Wow.
But
that's
only in this episode, you have the chance of receiving one for free for yourself.
Yes, that is right. So thank you so much for watching this episode and for joining us in the conversation. For those who shared their opinions, their comments, their experience, we will choose the best 3 comments and we will announce the 3 winners of this free 60-minute success call with Coach Julius. I will announce the 3 winners via Facebook page. So please visit Brown Bags TV Facebook page. The link is on the description box. And remember, the value is at $97. So you can save $97 and you'll enjoy a full session, a success call session or success system call session with Coach Julius about imposter syndrome. I guess this is one of the best ways to address your imposter syndrome faster. Am I right? Faster, easier, and most conveniently. What do they get? What can they get out of this 60-minute success system call?
They're going to realize things that they haven't seen before. They're going to realize the blind spots that they have. They're going to discover their vision. You know, most people go to their grave not knowing their vision. So it is, it's my mission to help people realize what it is that they really want. They're also going to find out the most rapid way of moving towards that vision. And they're going to discover the roadblocks. I'm going to help them discover the roadblocks that are preventing them from achieving that vision. And then, as it's called, a success system call, we are going to go through a series of steps that would help them to rapidly move towards that vision that they have. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. Very, very exciting. And I guess it's easier for us to address imposter syndrome when we are with someone who knows how to guide us.
So again, they simply have to comment their biggest takeaways, or
either their biggest takeaways or their imposter syndrome experience.
Nice, definitely. Yep. Cool.
Okay, so thank you so much, Julius, for joining us today. Thank you very much,
Chrissy. Yep. And thank you for watching this entire episode and for commenting and for sharing your experience. We look forward to reading your comments, and to the people who will be selected, I look forward to doing the success system call with you.
I'll be posting the winners via Facebook page after a week that this episode has been posted. So thank you, everyone. See you again in the next episode.
Background shows a small group of people in a theater-like setting watching something, and a block of text in a pink box appears at the lower part, saying, "Thank you for watching." The next sequence shows two sets of hands scribbling on a flat white surface, and a block of text in the middle with the words, "See you on the next brown bag session." Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Audio description written and voiced by Ray Recran.